me know as soon as you're ready. Assalamu alaikum and welcome everyone. My name's Mohammed Abbasi. I'm with the Association of British Muslims, and today we bring you a conversation around the idea of servant leadership for the 21st century and what servant leadership is. We have with us a few friends and colleagues from different backgrounds. We've got Dr. Safi Kaskas, Sam Shropshire, Isa Al-Hajj, Dr. Maliki, and a few other friends, including General Paul Manson, the former commandant of Sandhurst. So the way we will do this is we will have short talk, short speeches by some of our colleagues, which will end roughly at about 10 minutes past 4. And everyone will have a chance to also then raise questions, and hopefully our colleagues, our speakers will answer. Give some answers out. So we will begin first of all with Isa Al-Hajj, because it's traditional when we have Muslim organizations together. Association of British Muslims is leading this, and we've got the Muslim Voice for Peace and Reconciliation, and also IQRA, which is the International Quranic Research Association, together. So it's very hard for us to get out of not having anything to do with the Quran. So first of all, we'll have a Quranic quotation by Isa Al-Hajj, who's currently in Mecca, and he will follow that with a short translation and what that is, what the verse is, and then we will ask Dr. Safi Kaskas to give his idea of what servant leadership is. So, Isa Al-Hajj.
Sisters, hello everyone.
Do you want to switch your camera on, Isa? Isa, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. It's okay if you can't. Okay, that's.
Yes.
Yes, please can you give the Quranic verse or the quotation and also the translation, please, so we can begin after this.
From Mecca. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, Isa. We can hear you.
Were you okay? You guys heard the verse, the Quranic verse?
Do you want to quickly repeat that, and then
Okay.
Also the translation, please.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فبما رحمة من الله لنت لهم ولو كنت فظا غليظ القلب لانفضوا من حولك فاعف عنهم واستغفر لهم وشاورهم في الأمر فإذا عزمت فتوكل على الله إن الله يحب المتوكلين. The translation is, it is out of God's mercy that you have been lenient with them. This is God himself talking with the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So he is saying with them, rough-hearted, they would surely have scattered their forgiveness. And take counsel from them. Involved on a course of action, place your trust in God. Surely God loves those who put their trust in him. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Isa. Dr. Safi Kaskas, we're going to go to you for a short introduction on what servant leadership means or what servant leadership is to you, and then we'll move to the next speaker after that. Please, Dr. Safi, can you unmute? Let me unmute, and we can begin. Can you unmute? Can you unmute, Dr. Safi? Just can you unmute?
Unmute. Yes.
That's it. Fantastic.
Success.
I can hear you.
Well, good evening. I'm in Dubai and it's nighttime here, 7:30. Welcome to the meeting, sisters and brothers, and I'm very happy to see many faces from my Facebook friends joining us. Proud to have you here. Hopefully, the meeting will be what you expected and worth watching. For those who don't know me, I actually spent a lifetime studying management and consulting with business leaders for years through my company, Strategic Edge. I know leaderships and I know leaders. Many people in many countries are suffering today. Much of the suffering caused by the strife to identify an effective and sincere leaders. People want leaders who listen to them and empower them rather than leaders who practice power over them. Such a responsibility would create a sense of anxiety for any leader, especially in trying to adopt an appropriate leadership style to produce the required change. On the other hand, we can imagine the people's reaction to such a leader when they realize that he, she, or she is putting the people's need ahead of their own. People will recognize sincerity and they were rewarded with loyalty. This is how a new servant leader is born. How do we define servant leadership? Servant leadership is a way of life. I hate to call it a philosophy. I hate to call it a school of management. It's a way of life in which an individual interacts with others to promote their well-being. Servant leadership involves demonstrating the characteristic of empathy, listening, stewardship, and commitment to personal growth toward others. Servant leaders focus on developing and mentoring the team who follow their instructions. This will take precedence over personal advancement. Even upon attaining a position of governance, a servant leader typically encourage their subordinate to look to serve others as their priority over focusing on personal gains. A servant leader may aim to share power with others and encourage the development and growth of others. This trait can extend to listening to followers carefully to better understand their needs, but it also involves leaders holding themselves and others accountable for their word and action. Servant leadership involves demonstrating the characteristic of empathy, listening, stewardship, and commitment to personal growth toward others. Servanthood is not about position or skills. It's about attitude. Leaders seek ways they can add value to others. And the primary way they do it is by serving them. Where do we find examples of these servant leaders? Jesus is the first who comes to mind. In a well-known story in John 13, when the disciple booked the upper room for the Passover feast, they forgot to secure the services of a servant to wash their feet at the door. It was a custom to do this. Interestingly, as the disciple realized the servant was missing, none of them volunteered for the job. Instead, they argued over who was the greatest. When Jesus saw this, he decided to make an object lesson out of it. So after supper, Jesus stripped down to a garment around his waist, then took a basin of water and a towel and began washing his disciples' feet. As Jesus interacted with his man, several lessons about service and adding value arose. The first one is begin your day reflecting on the love you have for God and others in your life. Put others' needs ahead of yours. Develop the confidence and security to take risk. Look for a need and take initiative. Develop a bias for action. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, embraced the leadership approach that focused on people and their needs as a priority. Well, some people will say, how come? Is this based on the Quran? Yes, it is. In the Quran, Allah says, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعِدْوَانِ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. This is in Ma'idah, verse 2. Help one another in furthering virtue and good consciousness and God consciousness, and do not encourage one another in intended wicked acts and aggression. Always be mindful of God because his punishment is severe. Allah also says in the Quran, لِكُلٍّ جَعَلْنَا مِنْكُمْ شِرْعَةً وَمِنْهَاجًا وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَجَعَلَكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً ولكن ليبلوكم فيما آتاكم فاستبقوا الخيرات إلى الله مرجعكم جميعا فينبئكم بما كنتم فيه تختلفون. This is in Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 48. We have assigned to each of you a law and a way of life. If God had wanted, he could have made all of you a single community. But instead, he is testing you by means of what he has revealed to you. This is the important part of the verse. So compete in doing what is good. Compete in doing what is good is an order directed not just to Muslims, to all people on earth. God is directing Muslims to compete with others in doing what is good. Doing what is good probably would be to serve each other, to try to be good to the community we live in, try to be constructive to the country we live in. This is doing what is good. Doing what is good in the Quran is defined as stewards of Allah on earth, is to build the earth and beautify it. We used to think before Corona that what is good for us is good for the earth. Today, I'm changing my mind. What's good for the earth is good for us. One hadith in particular underscored this message. It comes from An-Nawawi. Whosoever removes a worldly grief from a believer, Allah will remove from him one of the griefs of the day of judgment. Whosoever alleviate the lot of a needy person, Allah will alleviate his lot in this world and the next. Whosoever shield a Muslim, Allah will shield him in this world and the next. Allah will help his servants as long as the servant is helping his brother. In short, we need to translate our faith into action. We need to be the change we keep talking about. We need to serve because we need to be worthy of the values given to us in the holy books and in the Quran and the Sunnah and our beloved Prophet. I like to say a whole lot more about the subject. I'll stop right here because I think my 6 minutes are up. And thank you very much for listening.
Dr. Safi, thank you for your words. Commitment to the other servant leadership model is not just about professional development and well-being. It's basically also the foundation of everything else that is based on when it comes to leadership. We're going to go over to Dr. Samuel Shropshire. Samuel Shropshire, can you unmute yourself, please, and say a few words?
Okay, I think you can hear me now.
Absolutely.
I'm not doctor, I'm just Samuel Shropshire. And I want to talk about servant leadership in view of the needs in the world today. We have many young people today who are discouraged. I'm talking about Muslim youth who are discouraged with Islam. and Christian youth also, and Jewish youth. They're discouraged with their faith. We need to begin behaving as God intended us to behave. One thing I've learned about Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is that he was an environmentalist. He was a peacemaker. He was an anti-war activist. He didn't believe in war, only war in the event of you were being attacked. Never war of an aggression. If he were here today, he'd be an anti-nuclear activist, because nuclear weapons and weapons of mass destruction kill us innocent people. They destroy houses of worship, building religious buildings, which is illegal under Islam. We need to consider what the prophet would be in view of what's going on in the world today. He would certainly be an animal rights activist. He loved animals. He cared about even the ant and other animals that are around us. I've learned so much since I've been in Saudi Arabia for the past 10 years. And my heart has been overwhelmed with the misunderstanding of Islam that exists in many Western nations today. So what can I do to help Muslim youth regain respect for their own faith, and other people earn respect for God? We simply need to behave as the prophet would behave. We need to behave as Allah intended us to behave. And I'm very grateful to be here with Safi Kaskas. He's the one that brought me to Saudi Arabia, he and his wife Iman. And because of them, my life has been totally changed and moved in a different direction. So thank you, Safi.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. And the thing is, it's the promotion of a sense of like community and respect. Servant leaders build strong communities within wherever they are. And I think on your idea of promoting Christians, Muslims, and Jews, the Abrahamic brothers and sisters, especially in this, I think is a very, very sound and valuable addition to what servant leaders are. And Faisal Tahir Khan, are you here? So Faisal Tahir Khan will now speak on what servant leadership means to him. Can you unmute, Faisal?
Yeah, can you hear me, Mohammed?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum and greetings to all brothers and sisters. My name is Faisal Tahir Khan. I am founder and CEO of FT Concepts. And in my humble, modest life, I had an experience to practice leadership. When I was in Montessori, in a school play, they made me a king. And when I was in university, I was elected as a leader of the class. So I had an experience both being a monarch and also how to be an elected leader. I'm thankful to the Association of British Muslim, ICRA, and Muslim Voice for Peace, and providing me the opportunity to share my humble thoughts. Today's topic is very interesting, and it is the need of our hour to have self-reflection as where we are heading as human civilization, what problem we face and how to resolve them, and more importantly, what type of leadership qualities we anticipate leaders of 21st century should possess to take us all into a better future. Today, the world is facing several challenges and complex issues that need to be addressed and handled by capable leaders who can comprehend the problems, visualize the solutions, and at the same time, build great institutions and teams to give innovative and sustainable solutions to make a difference in their societies and communities. There is a great demand to build those leaders who have entrepreneurial and leadership qualities, who can lift the societies upwards and build great institutions to carry forward our societies and communities into a better 21st century for all. Such leaders have issues to solve such as poverty, illiteracy, unemployment, acute diseases, regional conflicts, extremism, climate change, reforming capitalism, and in a nutshell, leading the world in achieving sustainable development goals. These are just tip of an iceberg in terms of issues. 21st century brothers and sisters demand leaders and entrepreneurs both in public sector and private sector who have various skill sets such as leadership, management, in-depth knowledge of history, politics, emerging technologies, international relations, macro and microeconomics, development economics, business development, global cultures and customs, communications, presentation skills, writing skills, analytical skills, and so forth. In last few centuries, the world has seen different type of leadership, from peacetime leaders, wartime leaders, development leaders, religious leaders, social leaders, business leaders, and so forth. If one examines different societies, we can clearly see those societies where leaders who rose to the leadership position through meritocracy, competency, and a process of evolution have progressed well than those societies where nepotism or other form of selection was practiced. But the most effective and efficient way of leadership that has been advocated by all religion and all holy books is servant leadership. The only solution to address the complex issues of 21st century is to develop servant leadership across the board. As servant leaders want to serve first and lead second. And it is not about them, but it is about the people whom they want to serve. Servant leaders have a lasting legacy and a deeper impact on societies, as the core of their leadership philosophy is to bring positive change and make a difference in areas of their influence. Servant leaders are universal in their approach. Their leadership principles are based on love and respect for all, rather fear and authority. Servant leaders' primary goal is to empower others, build societies with trickle down effect, and not accumulate wealth and power. Servant leaders are caring, loving, kind, empathetic, compassionate, good listeners, committed to the growth of people, high integrity, humble. They resolve conflicts. They don't abuse authority, result oriented, collaborative. They are visionary people. Brothers and sisters, human history has many leaders in form of democratic leaders, monarchs, dictators, generals, CEOs, chairmen of companies and organizations. We must examine their impact on societies they work for. As in traditional leadership, or I would say Machiavellian style of leadership, only few people or his inner circle, such as family, friends, and loyalists, accumulate power and wealth on the expense of larger society that at the end weakens and depletes the society they want to serve. The best example of servant leadership is Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as Brother Dr. Safi also mentioned, who has been the greatest leader for all time. He had all qualities of servant leadership, and one can witness his positive impact and legacy after even 1400 years. His leadership qualities transformed societies, and he touched the lives of people of all races, religions, and backgrounds. He was a great leader, general, preacher, father, brother, who spread love and great human values and told his companions to follow his footsteps. To understand what servant leadership is all about, we must study the life of Khalifa Abu Bakr, Khalifa Umar, Khalifa Uthman, Khalifa Ali, and Khalifa Umar bin Abdul Aziz raziyallahu ta'ala anha. 20th century saw servant leadership example in the personality of Gandhi, Mother Teresa, and Nelson Mandela. Here, I would highly recommend my brothers and sisters to read a recently written book, Muhammad, peace be upon him, 11 Leadership Qualities That Changed the World by Dr. Nabil Al-Azmi. In my concluding remarks, my brothers and sisters, I would say a servant leader is a good human being who thinks about others first, and he is well respected and admired through his great characteristics and values. We all have to join together our hands and build a social fabric where we work together to do the capacity building, to have more servant leaders in our societies who will be selfless, visionary, and competent to lead us in 21st century. Brothers and sisters, thank you for your time.
Faisal Tahir Khan, thank you. Thank you for your words on basically leaving a legacy behind. So serving leaders, servant leaders leave a lasting legacy and bring all communities together and empower all, not just a few. So the key word there is legacy. So now we're going to go to Rubab Mehdi, who is currently, I believe, in Islamabad. Rubab, can you say a few words, please? Let me just see where Rubab is. Rubab, can you unmute yourself? Hi, Rubab.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Sorry, it wasn't letting me unmute myself. And I'm sure that it had nothing to do with you.
Of course not.
And it's an absolute honor and to be yourselves and to hear the inspirational speech. I would like to thank AOBM and Dr. Safi Kaskas for the important idea and talk about an issue which is not at the heart of one community, but also all the different religious persuasions. As we know that in Islam, for example, most countries were meant to be welfare states, which is why we have the concept of zakat. I think also when we talk about being servants and serving others, we have to think about not only those who we agree with, but about those who we disagree with. And committing injustices towards fellow human beings require defacing the other, erasing their humanity and identity. Servant leadership, I believe, is a concept of rehumanizing the other and recognizing the divine through humanity. And what we are basically talking about is social reform. And Dr. Safi Kaskas narrated a beautiful story of Jesus. And Jesus calls us to love our enemy and pray for those who persecute us. And as we all know too well, that is an almost impossible task to do, humanly speaking. There is a similar story in Islam where Prophet Muhammad ﷺ used to clean the house of the elderly lady. He used to clean the house and attend to the elderly lady who would throw garbage on him almost on a daily basis. What we are essentially talking about is social reform. And I think, as the speaker before me said, social reform is connected to spiritual reform. There was a saying from one of the sages where he said that if you do not believe in religion, do not believe in religion. If you do not believe in the day of resurrection, do not believe in the day of resurrection. But die a free human being, live a free human being. And what was the definition of a free human being? A free human being is somebody who is free from the idols within, the idols of ego, the idols of lust, the idol of greed. And if you are obedient to your own desires, to the idols from within, you cannot be a free leader. If you cannot distinguish between right and wrong, you cannot be a part of the social reform. Because if you have greed, you can be lured with money. So basically, spiritual reform is linked to social reforms, and a man who is a slave to his own desires cannot be at the service of other human beings. You need to be a free man in order to be a free leader and be able to serve others. And very quickly, leadership is meant to be inclusive of everyone. It has to be beyond religion, beyond caste, beyond color. And when we look at the Quran, we start from Bismillah Rahman Rahim. And Rahim is more to do with Muslim unity. But when we talk about Rahman, in the capacity of Rahman, we are talking about an all-inclusive God. A God that provides to those who don't even believe. He provides regardless to every being, regardless of their beliefs, regardless of who they are. It's the all-inclusive God. And from that word Rahman is the word Raham, which means the womb of a female. And if we think about it, the unity of humanity lies in the womb of a female. It lies in the womb of a mother. It is about time that their leadership and their rightful place in the society is also equally recognized. When we talk about, like I said, and when a mother, you cannot just be a mother to one child. When you are a mother, you look at every child, regardless of his color, caste, creed, as your own child. And that kind of leadership as nurturers, it has to be recognized. And very quickly, as I have discussed women on minorities, as Muhammad Abbasi said in the beginning as well, that we have to be inclusive. And we have the treaties of the Constitution of Medina, which were drafted by His Holiness. And they talk about equality, giving equal rights to the minorities. And that basically, if you look, because these days people do have an argument on what kind of leadership model or what kind of a formula a country should be led in. And if you look at the Charter of Medina, not only are the minorities being protected, not only is there a welfare state, and basically in the recent history, we have seen the Marrakesh Declaration, where a lot of Muslim leaders gathered together to protect their own minorities and to be able to serve their minorities on an equality basis. Now it is time that strong words are followed by strong action. And once again, I would like to thank everyone for this very important topic, and may we all be able to serve
Thank you for
those.
that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for those words, Rubab. Inclusivity and openness, basically managing our emotions and behavior and bringing other people in, because it's about establishing trust and openness amongst the larger team. Everyone should be on board when it comes to servant leadership. That's what servant leaders do. I'm going to go to Dr. Sadiq Malaki, who's currently the professor in King Abdulaziz University. Dr. Malaki, are you there? Okay, let's see.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank
to
you.
put me with this such a distinctive group, distinguished group. I don't want to say much. I think we need to think of actions, and I suggest that we see the connection between morality and leadership. When Jesus initiated that thing, he was, morally speaking, being humble. And so we need the qualities of leadership that is related to morality to emphasize that. And of course, faith is the base. People are sometimes, we need to learn to be moral. And I think faith teaches that. Just simply, I don't want to add more. Just if we can find the connections between leadership and morality, starting from Jesus, peace be upon him, approach when he humbled himself, cleansing the foot of his follow, and he said the word, if you will not learn unless you become humble, or something like that. May peace be upon him. So 1, 2, 3 leadership and how to be a leader and moral at the same time. So people would learn from you rather than to be taught, or as Safi said, to be led, to lead. It's to be an example, in another word. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Malki. So it's basically about self-awareness, about remaining humble and conscious of one's own behavior that can establish trust with those around you. And that's what servant leadership is. Now, next person is Isa Al-Hajj Hussein, or Jesus Al-Hajj Hussein. Isa, are you there? I think he's on his mobile. Let me just see if he's not here. We will bring Isa in a bit. Let's go to.
Assalamu alaikum, Mohammed. He doesn't appear to be in the group at the moment, so maybe he's gone out of reception again.
Yeah, so he's probably out of reception. So let's see. I'm going to go for Qutayba. Qutayba, are you there? Qutayba, let's see. Qutayba is in a mask, and there you are. Qutayba, it's your turn.
Oh, I think I don't think I can be able to share much because I'm in Haram and it's too crowded. I can barely hear you guys.
Well, show us the pictures. Show us the pictures at least. So that's good. And describe where you are, and then we'll go on to the next person.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Hold
on. I was just saying, if you could show us the pictures of the Haram, and we'll go on to the next person. Don't worry.
Show us some video footage for Baraka.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right.
Not just you, Haram, where you are, the Mecca and everything.
Oh, so you want to see everything?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have proof. Alhamdulillah, that's very good. So, Qutayba, do you have any idea where our friend Isa is?
Well, yes, sir. Allah, I came here at Asr. I haven't seen him all day, yani.
That's okay. That's all right.
Did you guys try to come?
Don't worry. What we're going to do is we will. So we're 2 speakers short because of reception issues and etc. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask General Paul Nansen, who's our keynote speaker, to give us ideas of what servant leadership is and some of the work that he's done at Sandhurst, teaching people, coaching people on leadership issues. So General Paul Nansen, Major General Paul Nansen, do you want to say a few words?
Can you hear me okay, Mohammed?
Absolutely, and you've got more time now because as a couple of the speakers are out of reception, so you're lucky.
Okay, great. Well, listen, thanks very much for inviting me to talk today. I aim to do so for about 12 minutes or so and leave plenty of time, hopefully for a bit of discussion. The motto of the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst, which is the place where the British Army develops its next generation of leader, is serve to lead. And for anyone who's been educated there or served there, it's a motto that is etched on our hearts. It's something that is ingrained on us throughout our training and stays with us throughout our army careers and beyond. But of course, it's more than a motto. It's a way of leading, a way that has stood the test of time and served leaders well for generations through the most demanding of environments. Serve to lead is all about servant leadership. It's about putting the needs of your people before your own, of leading through the power of your unselfish example. Now, Sandhurst would argue that serve to lead has stood the test of time, but is it fit for purpose as a way of leading in the 21st century? Well, most recently, it's not just military leaders that have faced crisis. All leaders at every level have been required to think carefully about their own leadership and whether it's fit for purpose. But even before COVID, we were talking about the 21st century being a time of increasing pressure on our leaders. In the military, we talked of an era of constant competition, where leaders would increasingly be expected to operate in an environment characterized by increasing complexity. Now, of course, this isn't new. History shows that change is a constant, but I think it's fair to say that the rate and pace of change is novel, and that rate and pace is only going to increase as we move forward through the century. So it's therefore safe to say that today's leaders need to embrace change, to be resilient enough to withstand its unyielding demands. And of course, it's a task made all the more complicated by technological advances which increase the availability of data and the need to find the right information that only adds pressure on the man or woman making the decisions. And of course, leadership decisions and actions are now more visible than ever, with those in the moment of making a decision scrutinized not just by those directing, managing, and overseeing, but also by a host of media tracking events from afar. And finally, leaders are increasingly operating in an environment where traditional organizational boundaries are shifting, and where a new generation of follower has different values and expectations requiring a different approach, especially if we are to harness the huge potential of diversity found in all of our societies today. So that's today. What about tomorrow? I think first there are the knowns, and we have already noted that change is a constant, but increasingly the rate and multidimensional character of that change is capable now of unhinging even medium-term strategic plans. It will affect all levels of leadership and drive re-rolling, ethical repositioning, and the new integration of technology. Leaders will need to become agents for change, be able to adapt to an increasing spectrum of influences that will include climate change, scarcity of resources, social responsibility and accountability, identifying the expectations of the next generation of followers. And on that note, talent will remain a premium, and so will the leader's ability to spot, nurture, and develop it. The gig economy, portfolio careers, and the premium placed on work that provides personal fulfillment and adds broad value will become the norm. And the technological revolution will fundamentally impact on all aspects of our lives, and leaders will need to lead us through it, mindful of the manpower implications and the need for frequent upskilling. This revolution will increase the possibility of us all being disrupted into oblivion as old organizational processes and models are transferred onto rapidly expanding technological platforms. And increasing globalization will mean that leaders will need an increased global awareness to take a global view. It will require them to lead increasingly diverse groups of stakeholders, perhaps without the authority of command, in a myriad of contexts across national and cultural boundaries. And of course, there are the unknowns that, as the COVID crisis has shown, will come unannounced, with the only certainty being there will be another crisis. And we must therefore do all we can to generate agile, flexible, and resilient leaders able to respond and thrive in crisis. And COVID has given us an opportunity to learn some great lessons, particularly about leadership and organizational resilience. And it's up to us to ensure we turn lessons identified into lessons learned. But before we adapt our leadership to cope to the changes, we need to ensure we get the basics right. We need to ensure that the foundation is strong, the enduring nature. And that is what I believe Sandhurst does well. It gives us the foundation upon which we can adapt and evolve our leadership to cope with the next challenge. And based on that, and looking at those known challenges confronting us in the 21st century, I therefore believe servant leadership, serve to lead, is the right foundation to set us for success. So what is servant leadership? We've heard from many speakers already, but my own observations come from seeing it taught at Sandhurst for the last 5 years and experiencing it on operations around the world over the last 34. Today, I am going to offer you 4 principles or guidelines or rules, if you like, for servant leadership, for the servant leader. The first is, be the person you would want to follow. Never has there been a more need more of a need for truly authentic leaders. Firstly, the increasing pace of change we've talked about, coupled with the increasing spectrum of crises, means that generating a leader's legitimacy through bonds of trust will become increasingly important. Have we not seen in this recent crisis, those leaders who did the best were those that already enjoyed the trust of their people? They had that reservoir of trust banked before the crisis hit. Those are the leaders who gave their people confidence and hope. Generating trust is about many things, but ultimately it's about building an honest relationship with your followers, built on an ethical foundation, adhering to the values and standards of the organization, and then living and leading by them. It's about being the example. And second, and no less important, this generation of followers coming through, Generation Z as they're now called, are the most heavily marketed generation ever. And therefore they value authenticity above all else. You know, this is a generation that will still do amazing things, but they will ask why, and expect those that lead them not only to explain why, but to inspire them. As we were taught at Sandhurst in those last unforgiving seconds or meters, your people will follow you not because of your rank, but mostly because they respect you and believe in you as a person. The second principle or rule is that servant leaders believe in something bigger than themselves. For those of us in the military, particularly the army, the importance of the team has always been drilled into us. The regimental system, born at a time when men fought together for a particular nobleman under his colour, means that when we join our battalions and our regiments from training, we become members of another family, a family that cares for us, clothes us, trains us, and binds us together through good times and bad. In return, we are loyal to our family, our team. You know, I can remember sitting waiting to go into combat for the first time, and whilst the fear of dying, of the unknown and the uncertain was keen, nothing matched the fear of letting my comrades down. Servant leaders therefore build and maintain great teams, teams that will stand together when the going gets tough, teams that will provide certainty in and amongst the uncertain, and will give people a rallying point to cling to. Generating high performance teams requires leaders who can create identity, a shared sense of purpose, set high standards, impose discipline and bonds of cohesion based on mutual trust. Strong teams will be necessary to tackle the problems of the 21st century. Again, during COVID, did we not see those successful organizations were the ones who could sustain that fighting spirit and the will to win, no matter what the virus threw? You know, those teams that had the "we are going to come out of this stronger," with leaders who took the time and the effort to check in on their people to make sure they were okay, even if they were working at distance and in isolation. And I think now is the time to think about how we strengthen the bonds going forward. How do we make our teams more resilient? You know, did we have enough depth in our senior leadership team where people able to step up and take some of the pressure off more senior leaders in demanding roles? Where our communication is good enough to combat the isolation and the fear? And did our organizational structures withstand the constant pressure to react to an ever-changing virus? And as we come out of this crisis, how do we reintegrate the team, especially those people who perhaps have joined us during lockdown, who have not yet met us face to face? What lessons did we learn about maintaining those all-important bonds of trust when we were working from home? But of course, it's no good having a great team if you don't know how to use it. So the third principle is that servant leaders harness the power of their team. And the power of the team is about encouraging individuals to realize their full potential and then to use it for the greater good. It's about recognizing the need for diversity of thought, particularly as the 21st century will see a greater competition for leadership talent. Servant leaders are willing to listen to their people, to be collaborative in their planning, to encourage challenge, and when necessary, intelligent disobedience. That ability to stand up and say something when you know what you've been asked to do is wrong. Above all, it's about creating a leadership culture where each individual feels empowered to be able to step up when he or she believes they have an answer to a particular leadership challenge. And it requires leaders who allow those individuals the space to use their initiative and, if necessary, lead for that particular time in the mission. In the Army, we call that philosophy mission command. It's about empowering junior leaders to act with disciplined initiative based on a thorough understanding of the higher commander's intent, and when acting without cause to ask for permission or further guidance. It relies on mutual trust and leaders who express what needs to be achieved and then let their subordinates work out how to achieve it. But it also requires leaders who understand when they need to be more directive, when their people just don't know what to do or lack the necessary experience or training. And that brings me to my last principle, and that is that servant leaders ensure bounce back ability. Bounce back ability is all about resilience, physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional. Servant leaders, first and foremost, put the needs of their people first. And that includes making sure that they have the resilience to deal with the volatility, uncertainty, chaos, and ambiguity. It's about ensuring your people are as well prepared as possible in terms of their training, education, and development. In the 21st century, we need to look carefully at areas such as continuous professional development, not just assume that promotion at work is enough. This generation coming through asks, what's in it for me? They often look to advance themselves personally, often looking at multiple careers. So continuous development needs to take account of the what next, frequent upskilling to ensure people are prepared for the next challenge. So servant leaders generate a learning culture in their organizations where people feel supported to learn. And with learning comes failure, because we learn best when we are allowed to fail. And bounce back ability demands leaders who tolerate failures in themselves and in their people. They see failure as an opportunity to get better. In the 21st century, if we truly believe the only way to tackle wicked problems is to unlock initiative of our teams and our people, then we have to tolerate the occasional mistake. And mental health is a huge consideration. Educating and training our people to have a resilient mindset will not only help them cope with the stress, it will increase their performance. In elite sport, 90% of optimal performance is due to mental factors. And finally, in terms of bounce back ability, servant leaders ensure they put their own oxygen mask on first. That means ensuring your own personal resilience. Ensuring first that you check in on yourself so that you learn to recognize the warning signs, those signs that show when you're starting to struggle as a leader, maybe when you're tired, stressed, isolated, or frightened. And it's then about developing coping strategies to deal with these moments. Taking a time out, getting some sleep, raising your blood sugar levels, or talking to a friend, whatever it may be. Being honest about your weaknesses, showing your own vulnerabilities, will encourage your people to do the same. 21st century, having an organization in which it's okay to not be okay will ultimately mean you have greater resilience. So in summary, 21st century will undoubtedly provide us with challenges that we've not even yet thought about. Whilst we need to do all we can to develop leaders who can tackle and lead these wicked problems, I strongly believe the best thing we can do is to ensure we have the foundation of leadership as solid as possible, especially in our young leaders coming through. Servant leadership is, I believe, the best foundation to set us all, but particularly the young, for success. Thanks, Mohammed.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, General Paul Nansen. So what we're going to do is, let me just comment. I mean, 21st century leadership, 21st century has the opportunities that are immense, and that we must rise to the challenge. So servant leadership means resilience, strong decision-making skills, learning by using and developing one's own intelligence, being authentic, understanding that failure is an opportunity for growth. It's for an opportunity for learning and not throwing away one's or others' future just because of a mistake. Taking care of ourselves, our needs before that of others, so we can help others better, being honest with the self and others, giving others confidence and trust. Servant leadership philosophy emphasizes others' needs, but also one's own. Generation Z basically will ask why. So they will ask a lot more questions. So we need to be prepared to answer their questions. A good leader will use their knowledge and experience to make a conscious choice in order to benefit others. It may not always be an easy choice, but a strong servant leader isn't afraid to make an unpopular decision at times or offer critical feedback when necessary. It also goes into emotional intelligence, etc. What I'm going to do is I want to see if we can open the floor for questions for our speakers. And if anyone has questions, would you raise your hand, please? Or let me know. It's, Wasim Khan, do you have a question? Okay, let me just open. Wasim, I'm just unmuting you now. Yeah, carry on. Wasim?
Thank you very much. This is great meeting. I'm really much appreciate, and I think the organizers should be given credit, as well as, of course, the great speakers. Just 2 points very quickly I like to highlight, which was not too so far underlined so much. Dr. Kaskas, and I'm so glad to see him talk after what he went through. We were very, very concerned. So first of all, I'm so glad to have him talk. So and very relevant topic right now for. So he talked about in his whole presentation also about the attitude, and I have this book here called Community and Society. It's a very influential book. And known for nearly a century, Ferdinand Tönnies, a German author. This is an English translation. And he talks about 2 things. He talks about the fate of societies and cultures and civilization depends on 2 things. One is attitudes, and the other is institutions. Now, attitude is in one's personal hand, one's own control. And that is what Professor Dr. Safi Kaskas talked about. Institutions, Mr. Paul Nansen, very in great detail, breathtaking detail, he described in all the various aspects, and I took some notes actually. That's why I taken my picture off, So it's very interesting. I think his talk for about 15 minutes or so is very, very relevant, dealing with the complexity that we're dealing with in the dynamic world we have today. Everybody who has an iPhone or any kind of electronic device has access to the whole world, whether he's sitting on Mount Everest or wherever else, So my question really is to you, whether we plan to sort of institutionalize this kind of a talk and promoting like at a wider scale, so people at least become cognizant of the reality they're dealing with and the relevance of the kind of, this is really when you say servant leadership, it's really about an attitude predominantly, that what kind of attitude we are bringing into the leadership. Hey, you better follow me, or better you do X, Y, Z, or you will not succeed, or not at least in my organization, and so forth. That's what Paul Nansen talked about, that you're allowed to make mistakes and learn from those, and mistakes or failures are really an opportunity to learn, and so forth. A lot of this is not very well known. When I was growing up, I was mortally afraid of failing in anything. So that was the kind of a thing. I have been able to do well in my life and career. But not many people are really easily dejected and depressed and so forth. And that mental, like Paul Nansen talked about, even in the physical sports and such. Enterprises, the mental capability, the tenacity, intellectual tenacity can have a huge impact, And that brings me not without very, very quickly, Prophet Muhammad's life himself is a great example in like how for first 10 years he endured so much of, but he did not, he continued to persist in his mission, despite all the opposition from everybody he knew and his neighbors and relatives and so forth. And they pushed him out, and he eventually succeeded because of his persistence and his tenacity in his beliefs and so forth. Gandhi is another great example, that he also was always willing to admit that, if I make a mistake, I'm more than willing to be corrected. But I'll stop there. My question remains, your plans, and I hope it will come up at some point, to continue with this enterprise and bring it down, institutionalize it, was I guess what I'm trying to say, institutionalize this kind of initiative into something more persistent and ongoing, and bringing it to the institutions like younger people, like college students and such, people working from homes, a lot of ladies who do not have access, but these days they can have a career without stepping out of their house. So that's a great opportunity for the productivity of the world all over, anywhere, who has access to internet and such. But thanks, I'll stop there.
So, Dr. Safi, do you want to answer Wasim's question on that? Because I believe that you've done a lot of work on interfaith activity and a lot of leadership as well. And maybe after that, we'll go to General Paul Manson, to respond to Wasim on that. So let's see. Okay, General Paul, do you want to answer Wasim's question on that?
I absolutely agree. I'm actually passionate about trying to, a lot of these leadership skills, 7 leadership skills, I would put on the heading of life skills. This is about creating a better approach, and I agree with your point on attitude. But I think getting it into institutions, particularly schools, younger people, to set them for success has got to be a good thing. And I don't know what it is where you are, but certainly in the UK, I see very little evidence of that happening in schools. And it goes to your point on failure. And I do see when youngsters arrive at Sandhurst and they're 18, 19, 20, they have no experience of failure. They've not been allowed to fail because of the situations they've been put in at school. You can't come second in a race anymore in a sport. You can't. It's just wokeness, or whatever you call it now. And so creating the conditions where they can feel safe to fail. It's all about strengthening themselves personally, but also strengthening resilience, mental as well. So I'm a huge fan of it. So long-winded answer to your question, I think yes, it needs to be institutionalized. I don't know how, but organizations like this, people coming together and talking about it has got to be a good start, and we can work it out from there.
Fantastic. I was going to say General Safi. Safi Gaskas, Dr. Safi, do you want to respond for a bit?
Yes, indeed. Thank you for participating with us, Brother Wasim Khan. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate your comments. I think they're right to the point. First of all, yes, it is an attitude. That means it's a personal choice. And for people to choose to be servant leaders and to choose to serve others, they definitely have to have maturity, faith with maturity, not faith with the superiority complexes. I'm a Muslim, but I don't think, for instance, my religion is the only religion accepted by God. I see in the Quran that all these Abrahamic religions are from God. And in order for me to be a good servant to God and to his creatures, I need to be kind to all his creatures. I need to be kind to earth itself, because God entrusted me with it, made me his representative here. So yes, it's an attitude. To develop that attitude, you need to develop a particular culture. In my job as a business consultant, the hardest thing to change in a corporation is culture, let alone changing the culture in a nation, the culture in a place that where people grew up thinking they're one thing, and now you're coming and telling them you are servants. You need to serve each other. You need to be kind to each other. We all heard a few days ago about incidents in some Muslim countries in the world where somebody was reading their Bible and some Muslims objected to that and accusing him of blasphemy. That person that's accusing the Christian who is with the same nationality as he is with blasphemy because he's reading the Bible, it's going to take a whole lot to change his culture. He's not doing it because he's, you know, he wants to hurt others. You know, he's doing it because he thought he's doing his duty when he called the police and tried to stop the Christian from reading the Bible. It's a culture. To change the culture is not easy. We have to do a whole lot to change it. One thing I'm doing, speaking about it, you know, it's, I mean, every day I dedicate hours to Facebook because, to use Christian language, it's my ministry. It's where I try to convey thoughts and ideas to my Muslim and Christian brothers. You go to my page, I challenge you to know who is Christians and who's Muslims. This is like 13 years of raising those friends up to that level, working with them with patience, working with them with love, working with them because they deserve that I work with them. They're human being that God gave me as a gift, and I need to serve them. So that attitude requires a particular set of mind that doesn't come, you know, overnight. You need to work at it. You need to mature to it. You need to pray a lot. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open your heart to serving others. It's not a decision like I woke up one day and I decided I'm going to be a servant to my neighbors. It doesn't work this way. It's so how do we turn what we're doing today into an institution? I think one step at a time and one person at a time, one heart at a time. If we can gain out of this meeting one person or two persons to agree and join and commit to serve the people in their environment, to love everybody regardless, to forgive everybody regardless, to try to cleanse their heart out of any ill feeling toward others, not because we are willing to be insulted and remain quiet about it, but because keeping ill feeling in your heart hurts you more than it hurts anybody else. So all this I learned from Prophet Muhammad, and I like to follow it religiously, you know. And I first encountered it when I start learning how Jesus spent the few years he preached during those few years, how he preached to others. The same message I found with Jesus, I found with Prophet Muhammad. Some people say, well, why do you need to listen to Jesus if you have Prophet Muhammad, who was the seal of the prophets? Well, because Jesus was a very special person, because God gave Jesus the Holy Spirit to be with him all throughout his life. The same Holy Spirit that came and brought the Quran to Prophet Muhammad. See, you have to open your mind and open your heart and let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring to you whatever he wants to bring to you. But I can assure you one thing, it cannot be done overnight. One person and one heart at a time. And inshallah will be successful. This is what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Safi. We're going to go to Zahat Tanveer, who's in Saudi Arabia. Zach, you have a question?
Yeah, I have something to share with all of you. First of all, thank you, Brother Abbasi, for inviting me to this session. And it was really enlightening to listen to all of you, and especially Safi Kaskas. MashaAllah, you were blessed with wisdom. And about the question, what I want to say is, you know, what I understand from the servant leadership is that a leader, he understands the challenges and the issues of the people, and he moves forward to bring more stability. And I have lived here in Saudi Arabia for more than a decade, and it's really commendable to see the changes and that's taking place under the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman under Vision 2030 to bring more power and stability to the people, especially the citizens and residents. But I see ignorance at a mass level in the third world countries like India and Pakistan, because I run a lot of Facebook pages, and I see a lot of hate reactions and comments from these people, and it feels like the people here they lack proper leadership, especially the Muslims. They don't have proper leadership. So, what do the speakers here feel and believe that what should be done at the grassroots level in these countries to produce good and able leaders who can take them in the right direction?
Who wants to answer that question? Doctor, okay, I was going to say doctor again, and my apologies. Samuel Shropshire, do you want to answer the question?
Yeah, I've been to Pakistan 3 times now. I'm planning to go again within the next few months, inshallah, God willing. I've spoken at a number of universities there, and the enthusiasm and excitement of the students in these universities to seek God and to do what is right is very encouraging to me. But I see this also in Israel with Jewish youth. I see it also in United States and other places with Christian youth. But for the most part, there is a religion that hasn't been mentioned here today. And it's the religion of materialism. Sometimes we see on a bumper sticker in my home city, Annapolis, Maryland, home of the U.S. Naval Academy. You can see a car driving down Main Street. It's got a bumper sticker on the back, and it's meant sort of as a joke, but I think we've taken it seriously now in the U.S. It says the one who dies with the most stuff wins. It used to be that 70 to 80% or 90, it used to be 100% students at the Naval Academy. This was back in the early 70s, attended church on Sunday morning. Now it's barely 20, 30% or less. It's the same for, I think we see this, people worship in shopping malls today. And they think if I can buy this or I can have that, that's what the advertising says, I'll be happy if I own this car. I have this laptop, this iPhone. Oh, the smiles on their faces when they're showing the phones in the advertising. We've got our priorities all messed up. We need to get back to the basics, to the motto of the Naval Academy, to the motto which talks about God. I've been here in Saudi Arabia now for almost 10 years. Jesus, Asa Haj Hussein, and I work sometimes in prisons here. I'm the only American that I know of in Saudi Arabia that's got a permit to go in and out of prisons. I can go in and come out the same day. It's incredible. But I meet many Saudi youth, hundreds of them here in Jeddah. They're very enthusiastic to talk to me, but they're there because of drugs and alcohol. And, I asked them why. They say, because we want to be like an American. We saw it in a movie. There's no discipline in life. There's only desire to be rich and to do whatever makes us happy. what we think will thrill our bodies. God help us. And I need to be the example to these kids. We need to be the example. I was walking around the streets of Oslo, Norway, a few months ago. I see many Muslim youth on the streets in Oslo. But I walk up close and I start talking to them and I see needle tracks. In their arms. Okay, so what are we going to do about it? I walked into a bar in Frankfurt, Germany. I saw what were obviously a group of Muslim kids lining up to go to the bar. And I walked in. There were about 15 people sitting at the bar, ordering cocktails and drinks. And I said, "Hey, Muhammad." And 3 of them turned around and waved to me. What are we going to do about it? God help me to be an example to these kids, to get them on the straight path.
There's a lot of stuff that you've done, Samuel. You know, the thing is, you know, it's. I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff that you've been doing, and a lot of people have been in touch, and who've been affected by your great work, Isa's great work, and honestly, we can seriously. I mean, the thing what I like about yourself, Isa, Dr. Safi, and others, many others. In fact, I think everyone who spoke, they do a lot of leadership initiative. They do a lot of leadership work. They change a lot of people's lives, but they do not speak about it. They do not advertise it. They do not let other people know how great they are. And that's one of the beauties of servant leadership. But Dr. Safi, I believe you might have a few words to say as well before we go on to Wael.
Yes, I do, Muhammad. I want to go specifically to the question that Brother Zahak Tanwir asked. Yeah. He lives in Saudi Arabia, and he talked about what can we do in Saudi Arabia, and he is he feels sorry the state of people there.
No, it's not about Saudi Arabia. I asked about the people in the third world countries like India and Pakistan.
Third world countries, okay. Brother, there are 2 approaches to this, specifically 2 approaches to this. You can, in one approach, go through the people, you know, like what we're doing right now. Or like what Sam does. He goes and visits schools. He goes around the world. He's always traveling from one Muslim country to the other, and you know, and he goes and visit the youth in their schools and talk to them, visit orphans, visit all kind of people, and talk to. That's one approach. The other approach is to go to the leadership. Actually, before COVID, we had a plan to go to Indonesia. A group of us. All over 65 years old, so they have age and seniority, so to speak, been Muslims for a long time, have some accomplishment in the literature about Islam and all of this, and no strategy. So we go and approach these leaders, put ourselves as a group at their service. It's the same way I used to coach CEOs in various corporations. I want to go and approach presidents and kings and princes and say, I'm available to you. By the way, I did that with almost all members of Congress at one time. Just go there, knock on the door and say, my name is so-and-so, I'm from the Middle East, and I like to have 5 minutes to talk to you and put my expertise at, you know, at your service, and what can I do to help? You know, so some of them would talk, some of them would not talk to me. So now we want to approach presidents and kings and princes, and the same way you approach the grassroots, you also need to approach the leadership. By the way, Prophet Muhammad followed that strategy. He wrote letters to the kings and all the people of power of his time, and we have copies of his letters. And he also sent people to talk to various tribes. So that the two-vector approach is very valid. And we need to do it, you know. But COVID got in the way. By the way, I'm still recovering from COVID right now. So hopefully, same time next year, maybe we won't have this to worry about, and maybe aeroplanes will be flying freely and countries will have open borders. But until then, this plan is on hold. But it is definitely on my mind, and it's definitely important that we follow that approach with a group of senior people that will go and put their services, collective experience at the service. We're like a think tank, going and telling the guy, we are available to you, use us. We don't want any compensation from you. We just want to give you our 2 cents worth of opinion. See if you can use it. So these are the two-vector approaches that I thought about. Now, maybe there are other ways. You guys need to think, and let's stay in touch and keep thinking about ways to be more effective. I think maybe Muhammad Abbasi need to be like the common denominator, or the mailbox we all have, and we'll send him whatever ideas we have, and he will spread them. But we need to follow up on this initiative, because, you know, I give khutbas in various mosques in the United States when I can. And there is no doubt in my mind that the youth in the United States at this time are becoming very disenchanted with the religion of their parents. Look, we have about 30,000 Americans who are converting to Islam every year. And I can assure you, we have 30,000 young Muslims who are looking somewhere else for a different way of life every year, maybe more. Unless we change our approach to what Islam is, what do I need to do as a Muslim? How do I practice my religion? What kind of relationship I have as a Muslim in the United States? Do I appreciate the Constitution of the United States? Do I appreciate the American values? Unless we all ask ourselves these hard questions and try to rethink who we are in the world, you know, I mean, I cannot be someone from the Middle East living there, and I'm living there only temporarily. I'm an American. Being an American, that means I love the Constitution of the United States. By the way, I think it's the closest thing to the Constitution of Medina that Prophet ﷺ gave to the people of Medina. So because it has pluralism, it was given to people of various religions and assure everybody their freedom to worship without interference. This is the similarity I see between the two. So we need, as Muslims, to rethink who we are. How do we want to deal with our environment, immediate environment, the countries we live in, the world we live in? Who are we? We need to represent ourselves properly. Right now, some of us are extremists. Some of us are in middle of the way, what's called wasati, and others are Muslims in name only. You see, this is not giving the world a clear picture of who we are. We need to decide who we are. When Sam goes to Pakistan or to other places and see young Muslims, or go to Frankfurt and see the people that are going to the bar, yet those people are Muslims in name. They even called Muhammad, you know, and don't have any of the values that Muhammad gave us. Then we have a problem. That problem, we only can solve it if we are focusing on who we are. Why are we here? What are we going to tell Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we stand in front of him? What's the book, Wasim, that you're trying to tell me? Can you please?
This is Dr. Robert Dixon Crane.
Yes.
E.K. Farooq Abdul Haq.
Yeah, Bob Crane, my friend Bob Crane. Yes.
and
Yes.
these are his notes.
Yes.
So I
Thank
got
you.
this published in, the point is the challenge and response, the shaping the future is what we are really talking about. The youth, it's a huge problem in the United States, the drug addiction, and many of these drugs, you know, and this was institutions which are promoting it. Many of those companies have gone bankrupt, their CEOs have gone bankrupt. These are multi-billionaires, you know, were promoting all these narcotics. And the problem with narcotics is once they become, so we have to get into the biology of it, you know. So there has to be an institutional approach to counter that problem. And it's not just merely the goodwill and so forth. And now this problem is percolating down the so-called Muslim countries or other countries, you know, whether it's India or Muslim, anyway, I don't want to
I'm so glad.
away the,
No, it's okay.
anyway, thanks,
I'm so glad you brought up the issue of narcotics, Wasim. We had a Zoom conference on narcotics, also within the Muslim community a few days ago, and we're looking to have another one, a much bigger one, in about a month's time. And it would be great actually to have yourself there and also Dr. Safi and others to comment on that. We're going to go to Wail Sekali, who's put his hand up for a while and has been waiting to ask a question. Wail, I do apologize. Sorry. Let me just unmute you and then you can. Okay, if you can. You're still muted on your side. Good. I think.
No, not yet.
Unmute.
Yes.
Can I be heard now? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Can you thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed, for getting me in. It's been a pleasure, really. First of all, I mean, I cannot ask any question. I mean, this talk was so explicit by itself, so it doesn't give you any room to ask questions. It just might give me an opportunity to give you a couple of comments. And by the way, it's been so invigorating to me that, believe it or not, my exercise time has been doubled, sitting there watching you as I'm on a bike and trying to run on the treadmill. I was enjoying it so much that you doubled my exercise time today anyway. Briefly, I'm a physician for the past 50 years or so. And my very good friend and brother, Safi, whom I've known for years, has been there for me at the most crucial part of my life when I shook his hand and I said the Shahada at that time, a few years ago. Well, what really I would like to say is about servant leadership. First of all, I would regard this awful pandemic that we've been living, with all the tragedy that it brings and the disasters it's had, as an opportunity to learn and to practice servant leadership. And I think we've seen a lot of examples all around the world about how to deal with this. And personally, as a physician, you know, I've seen a lot of cases. I've seen how what people called us the army, the first line army. But it's not just us, it's everybody else at home or otherwise. I think it is an opportunity with all its problems and tragedies, as I said. The only if, between bracket, the grace of it is that we should learn how to serve others. One. Number two is really when you practice medicine, I would say, because this is my profession, as one should, then you really understand what is servant leadership. And you feel it. And once you are there and you feel it, the sense of inner peace and happiness that you get from it is so rewarding and it becomes your style of life. And I think once you do that, you would always do it. Those are basically my 2 points. I do not want to add on to others because really, I mean, practice it for once and get the return on it. And you see, thank you so much. And my regards and thanks to all the speakers. I thoroughly enjoyed every part of this talk. Thank you for allowing me to be there. Thank you.
My pleasure, Dr. Salaki. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. We're going to go over to Anwar Salim. Do you have a question, please? Anwar Salim?
Yes, in fact,
Yes, as the gentleman just said, there's not much room for the questions. Many of the things have been discussed in different directions, mashallah. But my my comment, or maybe you can consider it a question. We never talked about the root cause of what is happening. I think if I can share this, I was in a class and one of my students, a business student, asked me a question: what should be the distance between the employee and the employer? As Mr. Skeskas was talking about his experience as a business consultant. So I said the same distance you have between your head and your foot. And everybody, got so angry with me and said, in Islam, everybody is equal. And I said, if that's the case, then why don't you walk in your head for 15 days? I think the root cause is that a society has got those who are bearing the very weight of your society, and they're supposed to be treated in the best possible manner. I showed them my foot and I said, listen, I'm wearing a 3,000 rupees worth of a shoe, and I take care of my feet and I wear nice socks, and I make sure that I don't get hurt by a bad shoe. So my point is that where the humanity has gone wrong is that there are people, those who are meant, or their job is to basically manage without hate or love. And you cannot hate your right leg and love the left one, or the right arm or the left one. I think the root cause, which hasn't been discussed here, has to be brought into picture, and that is that in every society, strategic, tactical, or operational, all three tiers, the tactical and operational, always look towards the strategic tier. So I would say service leadership is all about making sure that there is a transparency between the vision and the mission of the S tier, which basically want to make the two tiers do what they want them to do. So you cannot move if your 1% people of wisdom and solution are not there.
Thanks for that, Salim Saab.
What we have done is that we have, they didn't have brains. So I would just stop here. I took a bit longer. Yes.
That's all right.
So I would only say that I think that that's why our feet wants to become our head, because this is their other, this is their destiny to be what they are. So I'm supposed to take care of those who are under my how should I say that, under my control. And control is all about right and left, and making sure that you don't love or you don't hate. So it's all about lakum dinakum waliya din. It's all about coexistence. So that's all I would like to add. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Sharon Ria, do you have some comments? Sharon? Hello, Sharon.
Sorry, I was just trying to turn my camera on.
Sure.
Basically, what's been discussed was, and it was just a few things I'd like to add on to this. All religions, right across the board, operate from the place of love. And as a mother loves her children, as Rubab says, we love everybody. When a baby starts to learn to walk, their parents or parent will allow them to fall numerous times before they actually succeed. That's their first experience of learning through failure. During the next number of years, their values and beliefs are formed. So work has to start from birth, where we teach our youth, no matter what race, religion, culture, or creed.
Thanks, Marie Catherine.
To learn to lead themselves, because you can't lead anybody without learning to lead yourself first. That's one of the things I picked up. Also, you learn to lead through vulnerability, because by opening yourself to the people that you're leading, you allow them to, you gain their trust, their respect. I'm working both in the UK to get reforms in from birth up, but I'm also starting work in Pakistan and other third world countries or developing countries. And everybody that knows me knows that I intensely dislike the name developing countries because we are all developing. You work from the bottom to the top, and you work from the top to the bottom to create the change. The only way you can create change is by educating, informing, and empowering people. And you can only do that by actually working with everybody. You have to have belief in your team, and the team have to have belief in you. I never ask any member of my team to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. I lead by example. And when you look at resilience, bounce back ability, when you look at everything that General Paul Nansen said, that is the key to servant leadership. But again, when you're working with every religion, every culture, right across the world, like I do every day, it's just courage, integrity, trust, belief, respect. Laughter comes into it, but most of all, love.
Thanks
And
for that.
that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you for that, Sharon. Really appreciate that. And on the issue of resilience, you mentioned the word resilience. We've got Brigadier Fiaz Hussein. He's with the Integrated Resilience Network in Pakistan. Brigadier Fiaz, do you have a question or comment, please?
Thank you very much, Mohammed, for inviting me to this August forum. And I'm enlightened by the speeches by different resource person speakers. And I appreciate the way they have covered all possible aspects about leadership. I would like to highlight as a comment 3 aspects. First, the institution which has been talked about in Islam, this very concept, this very title which we have of today's webinar has been given as an institution in Islam. It says, Sayyidul Qawmi Khadimuhum. The leader of the people is their servant. This institution has been outlined by Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him. So this is an institution, is available, and we need to pick it up and apply it wherever we can. This is one aspect which I would like to highlight. Second aspect of servant leadership, which I have found, and I would take inspiration from the life of Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him. If one can align, if a leader can align 3 elements, first, the purpose, the second, the vision, and the third, definition of success of people, I feel he becomes the servant leader. He is the leader of people then. People are for him and he is for the people if he has been successful in aligning the purpose, the reason for existence of that very outfit, the vision and the definition of success. The alignment as straight and as sharp the leader can make, to me, he becomes more and more servant leader. The third aspect, I would pick inspiration from General Paul Nansen's last principle, which he has given of bouncing back ability, the resilience, which brings the resilience. And I would appreciate General Paul outlining this as a very comprehending ceiling sort of principle, that without this attribute coming in, we will not be able to stand. We will not be able to stand firm in the face of challenges which we are likely to face in 21st century. And particularly to withstand the forces of those challenges, we would have to pick the attributes which can make us resilient. After having given this comment, I would like to seek a little clarification from General Paul Nelson that in Sandhurst Academy, how do they align these three elements, the purpose, the vision, and definition of success between the leader and the led? Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Would anyone want to go for any closing remarks before I end the session? We're supposed to end at about 5 o'clock, but I think what I'll do, I'll give everyone maybe another 5 minutes, just in case anyone wants to make any closing remarks. Paul? Yeah? Oh, sorry. Andrea, my apologies. Andrea, I completely forgot. I always do this. Sorry. Andrea, then you, Paul. I do apologize. Andrea? My apologies. You've been there for ages. I do apologize.
It's okay. I teach on Zoom and I miss my own students, so I understand.
Okay. Thank you.
General Nansen, specifically to thank you. I do teach leadership to the young. I live in Normandy and in a business school, but we teach leadership, and I do try and bring in the personal side of it as well as professional, which of course is all they're interested in. And I will be, with your permission, integrating some of your comments to my courses in the fall. But in the context of Islam, perhaps this is more for Safi, because I know you personally, or Sam, but anyone else with more knowledge than I. In Islam, servant leadership can apply to us personally. Sharon was saying that we need to be leaders ourselves. But within our faith, we don't have that hierarchical structure of Christianity, of other faith traditions. Who could this be? You know, this group here that we're talking amongst ourselves. Who could this be directed to in our communities as a principle? I'm thinking of the imam and the leadership in my own mosque. Is that kind of the thinking, or is this more directed just for our own leadership within our own communities?
Is that for General Paul, is it?
No, it was just a comment to him, but this is just for anyone. Sure. I was thinking maybe Safi or Sam or something.
I mean, let's go for General Paul first, and then maybe Sam or Safi. I could make a couple of comments on that as well. Let me just ask to unmute. So, General Paul, do you want to say a few words?
I think probably Sam or Safi are probably better equipped than me to answer the second question. I'm delighted you do teach it, though. That's great news, Andrea. And I'd be delighted if you'd use anything I've said to educate the youngsters. I'd be delighted.
I took a lot of notes, and I see that there's a book. So
there is a book, yeah.
Thank you. You're going to make my fall term so much more interesting.
Brilliant. I'll let Safi answer.
Yes, I think he's probably.
Dr. Safi, do you want to say a couple of words?
Yes. Andrea, if you noticed, I did not look at servant leadership as a school of management. That's why I said in my presentation, I don't want to even call it a philosophy. It's an attitude. That attitude, my purpose, my goal was to try to get you to feel what I'm feeling, so you will adapt it. So you will have the attitude of a servant leader, and I know you do. So it is, what we're doing here is not necessarily for those who are in position of power. It's for every single person that we know. you know, I mean, I grew up watching the management science developing. And I used to, I mean, when they came out with the management by objectives, I thought we reached, you know, somewhere in space. It was so happy that they have this. But then, seriously, when I start looking at Jesus and servant leadership, I woke up myself up from that ecstasy about management by position or management by here. Each one of us is giving his best to his neighbor. See, those people that are working with me are my neighbors, and it all goes back to loving God and loving your neighbor. The only way I can love my neighbor who's working with me is by trying my best to elevate them, to show them value, to recognize their humanity. And if they even have a different religion or a different whatever, recognize their otherness and recognize that they respect it. And I love them for whoever they are. And I leave the rest to God. And so somebody said we need to be the change we are calling for. So each one of us need to be a servant leader. When I talked about the two vector strategy, I was thinking about how to spread this quickly. In Islam, well, it's not even a hadith. It's a saying that I grew up with. It says, "Inna Allah la yaza'u bil-sultan ma la yaza'u bil-Quran." God, with the leader in power, can change things much faster than he can change them with new revelation or with the Quran itself. What I'm trying to tell you is it's not a secret that Jesus also sent his disciples to leaders. Talk to the leaders, but yet talk to the grassroots, the people, because this is for every human being. It's not for people in a certain position. It's for each one of us, you know, starting with myself and hopefully trying to infect other with this service virus, if I can call it that.
That would be a good virus.
Well, you're infected already.
Yeah,
I can
well,
see that.
Thank you for that.
Your fault. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. What I'm going to do, I
I want
want
to
to
bring to your
these.
attention, Muhammad, that we have Dr. Naeem Mushtaq with us.
Oh.
And he's a good friend and worthy to listen to if he has something to say.
The only problem is we're supposed to be ending at 5 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
But it's okay. I mean, if you want to say a couple of words, Dr. Naeem, please. Let me just. Sorry.
Yeah. Unmute him first.
Yeah, he's unmuted.
Not yet.
I think wherever he is,
Yes.
it's actually.
You can
Go
hear
ahead.
now?
Yeah,
Absolutely,
I
I can see you perfectly.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I was listening to Brother Safi Khas and I was thinking the things I wanted to say are already said by Brother Safi. So servant leadership, I also teach leadership and management. And this is a concept which I find in the Gospel of Matthew, in the Gospel of Luke, and also in many hadith. So if we go through the implementational aspect of religion, Islam and Christianity, I think the foundation of Islam and Christianity is based on servant leadership. This is briefly I would like to say, because in being a servant, you have to serve other people before you can question your rights. You have to fulfill your responsibilities first. So this is just a brief understanding, but I'm enjoying the comments of everyone. It's lovely. MashaAllah, it's very good.
Thank you for that. Thank you for those lovely remarks, Dr. Naeem. This will also be online. I'll get this up on our YouTube channels. And just quickly, Dr. Wasim just put up his hand. Dr. Wasim, do you want to make a quick short comment before we kind of
we
close?
should not end. We started with Quran and this is TB Irving, AK Talim Ali's translation from Canada.
Sure. Yes.
He had a PhD in Andalusian culture. California, for instance, comes from Caliph Harunia. The point I was trying to make in this book in Quran, and he was a priest. He was a trained Christian priest, Dr. T.B. Irving, you know. And I like to put it, Islam is nothing but a synthesis of Judaism and Christianity. And there is nothing in this book that is not there in Old Testament and New. And in fact, if you look at it, the servant leader example, in this book, Moses is mentioned 80 times and Jesus is mentioned 27 times. Muhammad is mentioned only 3 times. There is an entire chapter on Mary, the mother of Jesus, who's considered the noblest and most honorable woman in the entire universe, not the world. You know, it's not Muhammad's mother, his daughter, his sister, his wife. It's Mother Mary in the chapter named after chapter number 19. The point of that, now going back to chapter number 19, the compassion. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The Rahim and Rahman and Rahim come from the root word Rahm, as Sister Rubab had pointed out, which is nurturing kindness as if the life growing in the womb, you know. So if that is the vision, this book is offering. Every ayat, every chapter in the Quran starts with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, except one. And that's what I've been told, you know, I have not counted actually, you know, so which one is not, you know. So the point is that attitude that Dr. Safi Kaskas is talking about, that attitude is that of compassion and mercy. And that is ingrained in human beings. We just have to invoke it and remember and be conscious of that. Like a 2-3-year-old child or a 5-year-old child, if it sees a cat hurt, a dog hurt, it'll call for help. So that attitude is there. I mean, it's there ingrained in us, even for other species. So that's the point I'd like to remember. So going back to the roots of the fundamentals of our faith, our belief has been around for hundreds of years, thousands of years, if you go back to Moses and Abraham and so on and so forth, you know, that's ingrained in us, you know. If we don't turn it into shibboleths, you know, like the idolatry is not just the statues and idols, it can also be abstract concepts that we stick with such dogmatism and pedanticism, you know, that sometimes spoil everything for us. But anyway, thanks. I don't want to hog the whole time.
It's fantastic. I think we should do another Zoom, maybe in a couple of weeks, and where we can have a longer period of time, a lot more opinion on the issue of servant leadership. The thing is, it's all about encouraging diversity of thought, diversity, creating a culture of trust, having a kind of an unselfish mindset, which redirecting that mindset towards others. So basically, it's fostering leadership in others, and I think that's been throughout this session. What I'm going to do, I'm going to ask one of my colleagues to put this on the YouTube channels, etc., and I'll send you a link for the YouTube as well. We will have other sessions. There's one session that we're looking at on the issue of etiquette, modern manners, and there's various other ideas that we are getting from some of our people. So if you've got any ideas on what more we can discuss, it doesn't have to all be religious, but it will have an element of some of our religious traditions in there, because I think the best way we can move these conversations forward is by being open to each other. So it's been a pleasure to have all of you here today. Thank you for sharing your ideas, thoughts around servant leadership, especially the speakers. And thank you for your patience. If I have in any way cut anyone short, and you know, my apologies. Sam, do you want to say a few words quickly? This always happens. Hold on, if you're on mute. Yeah.
I just want to thank General Paul for being here with us today. I know it was a great honor for me to be in his presence and all of us. And thank you, dear friend, for assisting us with this discussion.
No, thank you. No, especially Paul, yourself, Dr. Safi, Isa, Dr. Sadiq, and others. We do this because we want to learn from a diversity of thought, diversity of opinions, and there's a lot of expertise within this group. And General Paul was the focus of this conversation, because the idea, serve to lead, came from his military academy, and it's kind of stuck in my mind and many of the others. So maybe I can also put you guys in touch by email, and
Please.
feel free to contact each other. And let me just, so basically, there's another comment from someone coming through, but I can't ask you that because that will take a long answer. So my apologies. I'm not going to mention the name, but it's an honor to, be among such accomplished individuals and be able to listen to all of your perspectives. And if you can message or email myself or Paul Saladin Armstrong for any ideas or any comments on this, we would really appreciate it. And thank you again also to Zach Tanveer, especially for you joining us and giving us support online
Thank
and
you
through
so
your
much.
network as well. Thank you, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
God bless you.
Thank you, Mohammed, for putting all this together, and thank you to General Paul Nansen, Dr. Safi Kaskas, Shropshire, and everybody else who's took part. As Mohammed said, there's so much expertise and experience here, and we really appreciate you giving up your time for this and sharing that with the people who are tuning in. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Good day.
Assalamu alaikum. Bye.